Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. Welcome back to Musically Sound, the music review show. As always, I'm the host, Mastodon. Today on this episode, Cake, Fashion Nugget. I was first introduced to this album in 8th grade, 9th grade, I believe. My mom was in the BMG Music Club, and she asked me to pick some albums out to fill out the order that she had to make. Back then you had to order so many. And I picked this album. And at the time I didn't know what I was in for. Cake is a very quirky band. The lead singer, John McCree, has very smart-ass lyrics and a monotone style of singing. And this is their second album, which was released in '96. Before I get into the album itself, I'm going to give you a little background on the band Cake. Cake was formed in 1991 by McCree, Vince DiFiore, Greg Brown on guitar, Frank French on drums, and Sean McFessel on bass, who would be replaced by Gabe Nelson. Following the self-release of its debut album, Motorcade of Generosity, the band was signed to Capricorn Records and released the first single, Rock and Roll Lifestyle, which hit number 3 on the modern rock tracks. French and Nelson then left the band and were replaced by Todd Roper, Victor Damiani. Cake's second album, Fashion Nugget, went platinum on the strength of the lead single, The Distance, which is a very catchy tune. They would then release in '98 Prolonging the Magic, followed by Comfort Eagle 3 years later. Comfort Eagle would have the song Short Skirt, Long Jacket, which hit number 7 on the modern rock tracks. Fashion Nugget is fueled by tracks like The Distance, Open Book, Daria, the cover of I Will Survive, and She'll Come Back to Me. The sound of Cake is very, very much influenced. They have across genres. There's jazz, ska, hip hop, rock infusion of different styles. Vince DiFiore's trumpet is very iconic throughout this album. Lyrically, John McCree is unique, but they discuss topics that aren't often talked about in music. Friend is a 4-letter word. It's basically a love letter to a friend, where some of us may have been caught in that situation where we're in love with a friend and they don't share the mutual feelings, and so therefore friend is like a cuss to that person. Daria, at the time, MTV had a show called Daria, and that was the first thing I thought of. The land of race car yayas, the rumblings of the road, the land where you can't change lanes, the land where large fuzzy dice still hang proudly. I Will Survive is a great cover of the original song, with the exception of I should have changed that stupid lock, being I should have changed that fucking lock. This album is the first time I ever heard that word on record, which I got a chuckle at the time out of that, because when you go down stick shifts and safety belts, all about wanting to ride in the car with your girlfriend right next to you, instead of way over in a bucket seat. It's coming down. I'm still, to this day, 20 years later, over 20 years later, trying to figure out what exactly they're referring to. I don't know if they're talking about rain or just all the shit. Nugget. The chorus is nothing but the F word, just about. It's funny. Italian leather sofa. If you read the lyrics, you can guess anything what that is about. This album was practically in constant rotation early on in my youth, mostly for the fact that it was one of only 10 albums that I had at the time. When you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a job as a young teenager, you get pretty close to the items that you have, just like in the world of comic books. For a long time, there was only a handful of books that I had. But this album, I recommend it. It's definitely worth checking out. As any of Cake's catalog, it's a great little quirky album. You'll have these songs like Frank Sinatra and The Distance and Friend is a Four-Letter Word, Race Car Ya-Ya's. You'll have them stuck in your head in no time, because they're very catchy. I give it a 4.5 out of 5 because it's one of my favorite albums from my youth. It's a different style. It's several different styles, actually. Each song on the album represents almost a different genre. There's some country elements, as I said, jazz, ska, with the horns. So check it out. 4.5 out of 5. Great little album. Get out there and listen to some music.